In the block commodities scenario, it looks like we have all the information that we need in order to calculate a set of seasonal relatives, one for each month of block commodities year. But in the interest of conserving energy, do we necessarily need to calculate all of the seasonal relatives? Now, let me show you what I mean. Block Commodities has gathered the following information concerning rock salt deliveries to its clients. Okay, so these are observations that it believes is highly seasonal. And that makes sense. We can see that across these 4 years on average, it looks like they're busy delivering in the late fall. I see large numbers. I see very few deliveries. These are what, tons of rock salt in the summertime. Yeah, there does seem to be a fluctuating pattern. Okay, so I could easily set up another column here, you know, seasonal relative for January, for February, for March, for April, for May. Because the seasonal relative, how do you calculate it? Right? You take the season's average and you divide it by the overall average. Or if the season's average is X bar, the overall average would be X double bar, or average of the averages. Now, what would that be here? Well, that would be the average of each of these monthly averages. Okay, I did that. I did that on my calculator just to get us started, right? I averaged all the numbers in this column, and the number that I got was 75.98. You say, yeah, okay. What's that mean? It means that on average, block commodities delivered 75.98, basically 76 tons of rock salt every month, on average. Just a flat average. It's the average of the averages. I'm going to need that to calculate the seasonal relatives, because each seasonal relative value for each month would be the ratio of the actual average to that number. Now, notice I wrote all over where I said I was going to create that column, because you don't actually need to calculate all 12 of them. Take a look. Suppose block commodities calculated the seasonal relatives. We were just talking about how to do that, to express this monthly variation in rock salt delivery using the status set. What would be the value of the relative for July? This question is only asking for certain ones. It's not asking for all of them. It's only asking for July, and then it says for the month of December. Okay, I can do that. It's a ratio. For July, you take the, now let's retrieve the right one. You take the actual average for the season, so that's 31, and you divide it by my X double bar, my grand average, my average of the averages. Okay, I did that, and I got basically like 0.41. Perfect. That's the seasonal relative for July. Finished. For December, same recipe, same pattern. For December, you take the actual average for December, 81.6, and you divide it by that same old 75.98, and I got 1.07 for December. If you have the first edition of Practical Operations Management and you're looking up the answers, it ever so helpfully volunteers the answer for September. What's the seasonal relative for September? The question didn't ask that, but we could confirm that as well. Just picking another one. September. September, the actual value was, September's like, ooh, a really busy time. September, 171.1 was the actual average. 75.98 is the average of the averages. So that's why there's that 2.25 for September in the back of the book. And we could do this for January and February and March and April and May, right? And come up with the complete set. But we actually don't have to answer part A of that particular scenario. Now, you know, maybe we have to for part B. I don't know. Let's look. Part B. Block Commodities believes that this year will be a busy year for rock salt delivery, so that's good. Forecasting a total of. Okay, so they're giving us a big forecast for the entire year, 1,200 tons during the year. So that's an annual forecast. I'm just going to note that down here separately. Annual forecast is 1,200 tons. Okay, got it. Using this annual forecast and their set of seasonal relatives, which we have calculated some but not all, what would be a logical forecast for May of next year? Oh, this part of the scenario is asking us to use their seasonal relatives to seasonalize data, because you normally, when you seasonalize data, what you're usually doing is taking a larger forecast and trying to break it down among the seasons. Okay, so in the case of Block Commodities, they have this annual forecast. I just scribbled that down, 1,200 tons. Now, break it across the seasons. Their seasons are months. It's asking in particular May, but first just back up. If you wanted to take the 1,200 and you wanted to logically break it up across the months of the year, the first thing that comes to mind is to take the 1,200 and to divide it by 12, right? For 12 months out of the year. Which comes out to, or indicates that the forecast is indicating an average of 100 each month. And we would expect about 100 each month at Block Commodities if in fact they tended to deliver the same amount of salt each month. But we know that they don't. Because this is a deseasonalized number. It's like innocent of the seasons. It doesn't know that June and July are really quiet. And it doesn't know anything about September being a really busy month. We introduce the season by multiplying by the appropriate index number. Now, what month did they actually ask about? They asked about May. So we would want to take this 100 and we would want to multiply it by the seasonal relative for May. Oh, the seasonal relative for May, we did one for July, December, and September. We didn't do one for May, but we could do that pretty fast, right? May is really quiet. That is 5.3 is the actual average. And then it's the same old 75.98, right? That is the average of the averages. What I get is that this comes out to be a really tiny value, this right here. That's their seasonal relative. At any rate, using it gives me a forecast of May of 7 tons. Okay? Yeah, May is really quiet, so it's a small sort of single-digit number. All right, so what I just did right in here is I calculated the season. I rounded it off to 2 decimal places. That's basically from the 100 going to yield you 7 tons. Now, they ask about another month here. What would be the logical forecast for October? Now, May is a really quiet month, and if you look at the actual data, October is one of their busiest months. And similar to here, we first need the seasonal relative. So I'll just do that kind of on the side here. If you look up the actual average for October, it was running at 197.8. That gets divided by the same old 75.98. So it's indicating that the appropriate seasonal relative is like 2.6, substantially higher than 1, indicating this is a very busy month. Anyway, what's the forecast? Take the innocent 100, multiply it by the 2.6, and we would estimate based on all of this information that for that next year, in which we're indicating that we think there'll be a total of 1,200 tons delivered annually, specifically there'll be 260 tons delivered in October and only 7 tons delivered in May.